Hello, I'm Executive Chef Joseph Schutze. Welcome to our kitchen. Today I'd like to share with you a recipe and technique for making one of my all-time favorite classical French dishes. This dish is Veal Blanquette. Simply put, Veal Blanquette is a veal stew. However, different from the American stew, this stew will be white, not a dark brown. After making this, I believe it will be one of your favorites as well. So join me now as I show you how I prepare. To begin, we need to make our stock. So in a Dutch oven or a pot, let's go ahead and add our veal and our veal bones. Excuse me. The recommended cut of meat would be a veal shank or a knuckle. I happen to have veal chops cut from the 7th bone. The 7th bone is not such a pretty looking chop. However, make no mistake about it, it contains all the flavor of the other chops in the first 6 bones. Then I like to add cold water. And you only need to do enough just to cover the veal by maybe a ½ inch or so. We will bring this to a boil, reduce to a simmer. Well, in a Dutch oven or a pot, I like to put the veal and the veal bones with cold water and 1 sachet that is a bay leaf, mixed peppercorns, and some fresh thyme. So I will loop this through the noose knot here, drop it over, drop it in the water. Our veal stock has begun to boil. I reduced the temperature to low, and I will skim this off, and we are going to continue to simmer it for about another, maybe an hour. All you're looking for is the meat to become fork tender, and you want a flavorful stock. Well, while the stock is working, I then like to take a saute pan, preheated over medium heat, and melt 1 ounce of butter. I will then start sauteing my mushrooms. We want to saute these gently. We are not looking to get any color on them. Right now the mushrooms are about 50% done. I will then add my sliced leek. Give these a stir. Let them cook for a few minutes more. We will then remove it from the heat, put it onto a plate, and reserve it for later. Well, now what we want to do, we have our stock made and it's reduced. Let's go ahead and remove the meat and then strain the stock into another pot. Now we strained the stock. Let's bring it back to the Dutch oven. And we will bring this to a simmer. Now that our veal stock is coming to a simmer, I want to cook the carrots before we thicken anything. So cooking it in the veal stock is obviously going to give plenty of flavor that's going to match the dish rather than just cooking it in salted water. Now that our carrots are cooked, let's go ahead and pull them. Put them off to the side. And next what we want to do is we want to thicken our stock. We're going to use what's called whitewash. Whitewash is flour and water. Much like cornstarch slurry, which is cornstarch and water, this will actually thicken much better than the cornstarch will. So we'll go ahead and whisk this around. And for it to thicken, you have to have it at a simmer or a boil. So we're going to bring this back to a simmer and let that cook for about 10 minutes. Now that this had simmered for 10 minutes, I have my heavy cream and egg yolks, which is called a liaison. So let's go ahead and beat the egg into the cream. We will then take our stock, go ahead and pour a little bit into it. And just like when you're making a custard, you need to temper the egg. So that's what we're doing. Once the liaison gets up to a nice temperature, you know, 150 or so, we can pour it right into the stock. And then go ahead and whisk it together and allow this to simmer for about 10 minutes. And as it starts simmering, it will reduce a little bit, and it will also begin to thicken up because of the egg yolks. Now that it is cooked, I'm getting the consistency that I want, nice and thick. We will then adjust our seasonings. I will add white pepper and then some salt. Now we will put our veal back into it. Let's add our leek and mushroom back into it. Let's turn here. Let's add a splash of lemon juice. And let's go ahead and put your carrots back in. Let's bring everything back up to temperature so it can simmer for maybe 5 minutes or so, and we are ready to serve. Well, there you have my veal blanquette. Many of the procedures or steps that I showed you is traditional, but there are some ways you could probably modify it. Rather than using the liaison and the whitewash, you could probably use a roux. You know, it's up to you how creative you want to get with it. Classically, it's finished with fresh chopped parsley. However, to tone it up a bit, you could always use tarragon would be fantastic in it, or even chervil at the end. You know, it's completely up to you. And also in the past, I have actually done modifications of it where I've done chicken blanquette. I would take chicken drumsticks, the wings, and just use the drummy section of it and braise that the same way. Maybe start off with bacon lardons, render to fat, and then, you know, and go from there. You know, no one's to tell you right or wrong. It's you know, whatever you feel to do. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's demonstration, and I hope that you try it out. I think it would become very quickly one of your new favorites. Please feel free to subscribe, leave some comments below, give us a thumbs up if you like the content and what we're doing here. Thanks for joining us. Yod Vayet.